Hey sports fans, Haroon, Rashid, Khemeia Consulting, and welcome to Haroon's Hangout, the internationally featured show on marketing innovation, where we make digital marketing simple, straightforward, and fun. Today, social media legal pitfalls and how to avoid them. And this is episode 42, and I'm so happy to be welcoming back on the show our head of business insights at Khemeia Consulting, Mr. John friggin' Stephenson. How's it going, man?
Hey, good morning, Haroon. I best live up to something after that reputation. Intro something.
I like calling you Mr. John friggin' Stephenson. I think that's got a real good ring to it. Do you think we could put that on your business card?
Well, it's an optional, isn't it? But I don't know where we would stand with that in terms of tone of voice and brand. But anyway, moving on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today's show, we've got a great show for you today. We're talking about any business who is using social media marketing, and you should be, but the legalities that surround that. What are the common mistakes from a legal standpoint that are very common, and how can you avoid them? Now, John, we know there's a guy called Asad Ali from Black Solicitors. He's a guy that we've known for a little while now, really great guy. And Asad is from, as I say, Black Solicitors. He came out with a post, really great post, a couple of weeks ago, and he wrote it on creativeblock.com. In fact, I'm just going to bring it up here. So there you go, there's Asad. And he wrote this really great piece called The Legal Pitfalls of Using Social Media, and we'll put all of Asad's Twitter links and Black Solicitors links in the show notes and in the video description. But in this great piece, he talks about, I think there's around about 5 or 6 common areas, or he calls them danger zones, and I thought we could just go through those and just kind of talk about them a little bit and talk about our personal experiences with the legal pitfalls. John, how does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great, Haroon. First things first, I'd just like to say it's a great piece by Asad, and what I really liked about it was the fact that he started talking about the power and reach of social media, but in a digital context. So we all think of digital media, and you could look at it from 2 perspectives. We've got to think about it in terms of our working lives, and also as well professionally. But more importantly as well, also when we're at home and relaxed, be that in our private life or acting as a consumer, interacting with a company or a business, for instance, buying products or services. But one of the things that I'd like to pick up on is just paint a picture about the power and the reach of social media, just to kick off with, and give you some stats about the big 5 social media platforms, Haroon, if that's all right.
Well, you are the stat man, being the head of business insight, so I would expect nothing less. So yeah, go ahead, stats away.
Okay, so why you need to be careful on social media. Its reach is all around us. So Facebook, there are a staggering 31 million people who use Facebook on a monthly basis in the UK. That's huge, 31 million. However, globally on Facebook, there are 1.28 billion monthly users. Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. A lot of people.
Now,
no, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
We also use Twitter. In the UK, as a company, we use Twitter, and in the UK, there are 15 million users of Twitter. Staggeringly, globally, that's up to 500 million tweets a day.
Whoa!
Wow.
I account for about 100 million of those tweets, by the way.
Well, on that, apparently, there are up to 255 million active users of Twitter on a monthly basis, and I know that's something that we use as a company, and that's good from our realizing the power of social media and also the reach. I mean, we do get a lot of success through Twitter, so it's certainly something that we utilize as a company. Google Plus, again, we use Google Plus, and I was somewhat surprised to find that there are up to 1.6 billion users on this channel.
Mm.
That's huge. That's massive. LinkedIn, just really quickly now, because I don't want to do a Peter Snow and snow everyone with statistics, but they're up to 300 million users globally. In the UK, well, it's quite small. There's about 10 million people using it. What's quite interesting with LinkedIn is that they've just lowered the age limit on LinkedIn, so you can have a profile now aged 13. Arguably, it should be interesting to see where LinkedIn goes. I think they're changing their business strategy at the moment. A cynic would say that LinkedIn's a bit like the CV depository, repository. um, and then finally, YouTube, again, another channel that we utilize. They're up to 1 billion total users on YouTube. Again, staggering. And 80% of that traffic is outside of the US, which I thought, I was a bit surprised at that. But then again, going back to Ashad's point, it's power and reach of social media is everywhere. What that actually equates to is 6 billion hours of video watched worldwide per month. 6 billion hours? That's just massive.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna. That's fantastic, John. So those are really great stats, and I think the point is that most people now are using digital platforms. I'm just going to read the first one of the opening paragraphs actually of Assad's article, and it says, "There's no escaping the power or reach of social media, as newspapers, magazines, and books are steadily being replaced by digital content on iPads, Kindles, and smartphones." Excuse me. As both consumers and professionals, we are never far away from a device connecting us with online content that can be instantly shared with our friends and followers, which leaves us potentially vulnerable when it comes to legalities online. The more people that are using these platforms, basically, means that we are all going to make some sort of mistake legally. The odds are just there, okay? And he lists these danger zones, and I think I'll probably just go through them now. The first one he talks about is defamation of another person or an organization by you or your staff. The second one is damage to your own company's reputation. Third is breaches of confidentiality, which we know a lot about, John, having worked with some product design companies and other kind of tech-related companies. This one is also very big. Infringement of another's IP. That's a really big one. Data Protection Act breaches and breaches of the advertising codes. So those are like the main danger zones which Ashad lists in his article. Again, we'll link to that in the show notes. But I think for us as a company and for our clients, we have come across the vast majority of those that he's listed, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I mean, the key thing for me is UK law and the average business owner or their team, management team or their staff sometimes are unaware that the defamation and libel laws are applicable to social media, as you just pointed out, Haroon. And the content that they produce and put on their website, be that social media or other content that gets put on the website, you've still got to think three key things. You've got to think, is it inappropriate? Is it misleading? And is it offensive? Think before you click. Think before you publish. And as you've said, we have got quite a lot of experience in terms of confidentiality breaches, and we've worked with some product design companies in terms of product and prototype and confidential company data and reports. You've got to be careful that nothing is shown on screen if you're doing a Hangout as we're doing at the moment, or if you're using any other form of social media, taking pictures or selfies, that you're not actually infringing anyone's IP. You've got to think of their brand.
Absolutely. And it's really funny. I was with a client once, this is a while ago now, and they were hesitant to go on social media.
Yeah.
And the guy says to me about Twitter, he goes, "Well, what if someone tweets something bad about us then from internally?" And I said, "That's more of an internal issue for you, isn't it?" I said, "Either you trust your staff or you don't." Okay, so I said, whoever you're asking to tweet for you, only put someone in that position if you trust them. That's it. That's not my job to do that. You know your staff better than anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody. I don't know who works for you and you know what they're like and everything. So I think from a process point of view, it all starts with trust. If you are going to use social media, you need staff that you can trust, who are not going to go and, as John's saying, say silly things and do really inappropriate things on social media, because this is your voice, your brand, and you are entrusting somebody to do this for you. I mean, we're talking really for the bigger companies here who have a marketing department now. I'm not talking about a one-man band. If you're a one-man band, then of course you'll be doing the tweeting yourself. But when you are at a certain level, a bigger, small, you know, a small to medium-sized business, and you have a marketing department, you're going to have to get people that you trust. So don't blame the consultants. Don't blame everybody else. Just pick the right person. If it's just one person that you can trust, fine. But if you can't trust anybody, then frig me. You've got to hire somebody that you can trust to do this, right?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Really, if you're a freelancer or if you're a business, be that a micro business or a startup or a SME or a public sector or third sector, it's really, really important that you have some sort of social media policy. There's three things to remember about a social media policy. One is monitor, the second is manage, and the third is take action. So it's really, really important, in my opinion, that the risks are recognised and managed appropriately, both inside and outside of the business, because, of course, social media is something that people can access at any time in the office or out of the office.
Absolutely. Another thing that happened as well, and, oh gosh, I thought about this morning when I got out of the shower. I don't know why I'm telling you when I got out of the shower.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe it's because we're close as a team. But but I was getting ready, and I thought about this client that we had, because I got a phone call earlier this year from a client, and he said, I've just got a fine through the post, and it's because we've used images that we don't have permission to use them. We don't have the copyright. And he goes, it was costing him, well, it was costing quite a lot of money. We're talking thousands of pounds here. And
I remember that. That was the Getty Images, wasn't it?
That's the Getty Images. And what had happened was, we'd gone in and done some training. The person who I had trained was no longer there, okay? And this, the fines came subsequently after this person had left. But when I had trained this person, I remember, and I said this to our client, I said, I gave them a free website where they can get free images to use. I even sat with them and opened them up an account for free, so they have the access to use these images. But what this person had done was, they'd just gone on Google Images and just started save image as, and just started gripping all these, images from wherever. Didn't realize that one of these was actually, Getty Images. But the sad thing was that we found out that when we went through all the blog, they had done it for every single blog post. They had not used that free website once. They had done it, and this client, unfortunately, kept getting the fines through, and it was like, I think it was fast approaching 10 grand, 10 grand's worth. And it's so simple, because people think, well, it's all right, I won't get caught, it won't happen to me, I've got a smaller website. No, seriously. And we've dealt with this all the time. People say, oh, just do it anyway, it doesn't matter, let's just grab the image. No, you will get fined. They will fine your ass. Seriously, stop it. In fact, the free website, there's a couple of good free websites that we use, and I'll put links to those in the show notes as well. One off the top of my head is called sxc.hu, I think it is. We use that one quite a lot. There's other websites where they're really good. You can sign up for free. They'll send you 10 high-quality images a month. and you can just start to build up your stock photography that way. But the good thing about these is that they're not infringing on any copyrights. They're not infringing on anyone's IP. They actually say you can use this stuff in your blog content, and it's just better to have that peace of mind, isn't it, John?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to rattle off a couple of quick points, really, about a quick checklist in terms of social media. The first thing is, you raised the point a couple of minutes ago about you need to have someone to point the finger at in your business. So, Haroon, that's yourself in terms of social media and what.
Hey!
But it's important that there's a single point of contact, or alternatively, people who may have a grievance have got somewhere to go, and it's not just, gosh, how do I contact this company? So it's really important to have a named individual to point the finger out and have some contact information. The other thing as well is to build on what you said about the case study that we talked about the Getty images, that it wouldn't have happened if it had a social media policy and everyone was aware and of their responsibilities. So, you know, they knew what to do on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and on the blog in this instance. And I also think as well that it's also worth monitoring up-and-coming social media accounts as well that people can put stuff on for your business. So that could be WhatsApp, Instagram, or Pinterest, for instance. Like most things in life, the devil's always in the detail as well, but it's really, really important to keep your social media policy relevant and up to date. So what do I mean by that? So your staff need to understand what's acceptable use, what's e-safety, what will happen in terms of disciplinary, what's important in terms of communication, and what's important in terms of e-security. And the key thing, and I think probably where a lot of confusion is, so important to understand where professional ends and private begins. And you've got to make clear what is acceptable use and what is unacceptable use. And that means training.
Haroon's Hangout, presented by Khemeia Consulting, where we believe that innovation is the key to business growth. Absolutely right, John. I mean, for me, we've done this both outside of Khemeia and within Khemeia. We work with so many companies now, and I am starting to feel that this whole thing isn't actually a legal issue per se. It's a people issue. Because a lot of this stuff can be avoided if you have the right people in place. I mean, I'm going to be doing a talk for a conference in September called Thrive Yorkshire. Again, we'll put that, hey, I'm plugging it here, hey, we'll put it in the show notes as well. But that's particularly for growing businesses. But what I'm going to talk about is that in order to have great social media marketing, in order to have great marketing in general, you are going to need one thing, and that is a leader, a strong leader, because a good, strong leader will not tweet inappropriate things. They will not put out things that will infringe on copyright, get fined by Getty Images. It becomes a people issue. If you have a good person in place, you will avoid all of the legal pitfalls, I think, and I think that's the root issue right there. You need a good leader.
I was about to say, Ashad makes a wonderful point about putting the genie back. Well, what does he mean by that? Once it's out there in terms of what the message might be or what the text says. And it's so important that staff are aware what is required prior to posting relevant content, which is the training bit that we're talking about now. And it's important to have a disclaimer in place, make sure and think that, is this appropriate before you tweet, before you post, before you publish anything? And if necessary, do you need to put some checks in place in terms of authorization? And the other thing is, to pick up on your last point, Haroon, is that legislation is changing. So if you look at what's happened in the first quarter of this year, the EU passed a law about the right to be forgotten. and now individual can request to have some data or certain things about them removed from public view, and Google started to do that now. Also, as well, moving forward, there's some impending EU directive about data protection and IP and a company's rights online and online assets. That's something that Ashad raised in his post towards the bottom of the article. And I think that's a fascinating area, because what we're looking at there is the importance of, you know, how the devil do you put the genie back in once this content is out there that's offensive? What do you need to be aware of that, so you're not going to fall foul of that law? And as we know, technology is always changing, and so is legislation. It's naive to think that, you know, it's defamation and libel laws that have been around, you know, for a good 100 years aren't applicable to digital and online. They are, and this is why a company needs training, and this is why they need education in terms of keeping their staff updated. So I do think that social media guidance and the policy needs to be in place to make sure that people are confident on social media, saying the right things, and they're able to monitor and manage and take action in terms of the content that they're putting out there.
Totally, and you know, the Getty Images example that I gave as well. It's like we did the training, but the client didn't enter after the training had stopped. The client didn't actually come to us for a retainer. Now, had they gone for the retainer, we would have then gone into the coaching. You know, I'd have been wearing my coaching hat,
yeah,
you know, and then developed the social media policy and all that good stuff, and developed them as a leader, you know, or a good person to do all this stuff. And what you're saying about the genie as well is quite interesting. I think that now companies, no matter what scale you are on, this is becoming a PR exercise, isn't it? Just before we went live, you know, we talked about, I mean, Khemeia as a company in general, we think like a broadcaster. That is one of our key things. We think like a broadcaster. We have so much video content that goes out there. The way that we approach our content is like that of a broadcaster. And in the same way, with that goes PR. Now, if you tweet something bad, like you're right, like Anas said, right, it's gone. Once you do that, it's gone. Yeah. How you react to that is more of a PR thing. Now you've got to issue an apology. You've got to do a video response or a blog response or have something there. Because if you keep quiet, flipping it, you're going to get berated. And there are so many examples of companies who've just not cottoned on to this thing. It's like you are a broadcaster now. If you're using social media, is a broadcasting tool, if you want to look at it like that. But if you're going to use social media, have a good person in place, have a policy in place, have a, you know, and think like a broadcaster, have that PR kind of mentality on your head. What we're going to do is we're going to put the links to follow Asad on Twitter. If you want any more help, particularly from the legality, from the legal standpoint and all that, you know, we'll give you Asad's details and Black Solicitors where he works. You know, they're a really great bunch of people. And, you know, Asad himself has got quite a big social media following, hasn't it? Which is quite impressive for a solicitor.
He has. It'd be wonderful, possibly in the future, to get Ashad on to talk a little bit more about the Communication Act 2003 or the impending EU directive and how that's going to impact on a business and what a business needs to be aware of and what needs to go in a social media policy for a company, and just his wisdom on how social media is used by businesses, I think would be a really interesting perspective.
Certainly. I mean, Asad, if you are watching this, and we hope you are, then, you know, we'd love to have you on the show and to talk about this in more detail. So, well, that's it for Haroon's Hangout today. Haroon's Hangout presented by Khemeia Consulting, where we believe innovation is the key to business growth. We've had a lot of great fun today. Catch us every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Greenwich Meridian time. And next week, I believe I'll be having the Khemeia director himself, Mr. Ian Sharp, where we'll be talking about SEO innovation. So you don't want to miss that. But from me and John, take care, sports fans.
Thank you. Bye.